I've been enjoying the visiting with you, though.
It's been a nice day.
I love your company, Grandma.
Thank you. Who's my company? You're my company. Anastasia Mary Woodhelm, December 23rd. Yeah, 1922 I was born. Well, I think they took Anastasia. I don't remember ever asking my mom why, but I know that years and years ago, the third Mass on Christmas Day used to always be in honor of Saint Anastasia. And that's, I suppose, because I was born 2 days before. I don't even know what day I was baptized on. I don't think it was Christmas Day, I'll tell you, I don't think so. But I don't know, because then, boy, that baby was born. It was baptized almost immediately.
Yeah.
Probably the next day, even if they had to take you out in a blizzard.
Wow. Now tell me the story, because didn't one of your brothers get his name changed during his baptism?
Yeah.
What was the story with that?
Well, Mom sent him to be baptized, and the parents didn't go with him because Mom was still definitely in bed yet.
Sure.
The babies were all born at home. And he was sent to be called Raymond. And the priest at that time in Cornlea was Father Edwin. And every boy that he had a chance to change his name to Edwin, he did it. There were lots of Edwins around at that time. When he came home, Dad said to Mom, Mom, he's not, she said, here comes my little Raymond boy. He said, Mom, his name is Edwin. Watch, she about blew her top.
I would too. Wow.
Mom said, if he wanted kids, he should have had them. She was so mad.
I would be too. Because you already had a brother, Edward, correct?
Edward, yeah. The second one was Edward. Now she had an Edwin, and they aren't even, good thing they weren't right close together. People said, how can you have twins a year apart? Well, there was Tony, Edward, Lawrence, Ferdinand, Edwin, and Richard. She had 6 boys first, and then a girl, which was Angela. Then she had another boy.
Which was?
Leander.
Okay.
Then Lorette and Via were 2 girls together. I think she was in heaven. She had 2 girls together. And then there was another boy, Lee. And then me. And then Cletus. And then Dennis. And Dennis is the only one living yet.
Okay.
And actually being way down at the end of the family like that, I felt more close to the kids, to my brothers, and down at that end where the older ones were so much older. They were like giants.
Yeah. Those 2 growing up.
Well, my brother Lee was about 3 years older than I was.
Okay.
And before him was my sister Vi. She lived out in Indianapolis after she got married. So we used to be closer together. I remember I cried when she left home. I don't know where, I probably was in high school already, but she had just graduated from the senior class in St. Francis, and she was going out to Illinois to be a bridesmaid at my brother Tony's wedding. And of course, we're not going out for any wedding. I don't even know if Mom and Dad went out for their wedding. You just didn't go on trips.
Sure.
I don't remember ever going on a trip as a kid.
Yeah.
She never looked young to me. She always had gray hair. Of course, being at the end of all those boys, being number 12, she probably was worn out. She wasn't a fancy dancy. She had simple haircuts, kind of chunky, because, well, they probably didn't eat healthy. They ate what they had. Mm-hmm. Your vegetables were home canned. Sauerkraut, oh, Mom made good sauerkraut.
I love sauerkraut.
Oh, it was cured in a big crock, and I think I might have that crock yet.
Oh, really?
somebody was talking about, who was talking about those Crocs recently? Maybe it was Barb. And I said, well, if you want a Croc, I'm sure there's a couple of them in the garage and a great big one down in the basement that I used for an end table that Vic made a top for it, and we just hung a tablecloth over it. It's in Steve's room.
And that's what she would cure the sauerkraut in.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yum.
Of course, the smaller Crocs, a lot of times after you rendered your lard, you put them in these big Crocs and set them in the cave and kept your lard fresh.
And you just go get what you needed out of them.
Yeah, I just went down whenever you needed some in the kitchen.
Wow. So were you very close to your sister? What was your dad like?
My dad, well, to me, he wasn't much bigger than I was. he was kind of a short person, and I think by the time I came along, well, I don't even never ever thought about how old he was, because he had kind of a humped back, probably from working and lifting and driving horses. They didn't have tractors way back when.
And what did he do? Did he farm?
Just farmed, yeah, mostly. But he also, I think, way back when he was younger and able to do it, he used to work on the telephone lines. And if there'd been a storm or something, the wires break down or needed repair work. I finally found that out eventually, that he repaired the lines when they broke down. I don't remember how long he stayed at it. Probably when he couldn't do it anymore, he just had to quit.
Sure. Fun as a child.
Played dolls.
Yeah.
I loved my dolls. I wouldn't even throw them away if the head broke off. I had a hospital then. I didn't have any fancy place to play. I think I played in the furnace room a lot downstairs in the basement.
Yeah.
Because I remember I didn't have a doll's bed or anything, any cutesy little ornamental bureaus or anything. I just made do.
Yep.
And I was the only one that played dolls at the time. My sister Vi was much too big for dolls, you know. So I was kind of a lone player, unless Cletus and Dennis would play dolls with me, but they didn't consider themselves doll people. Although Cletus had 9 children eventually.
Oh, really?
Dennis had 3. Yeah, 1 girl and 2 boys. And they lost a baby too. With that SIDS, you know, Dennis was up with him at 4 in the morning for the bottle, because Ruth had a cesarean, and so he would get up and take care of the baby at night. So then when he was going to get up to go to work the next morning, here he found his baby dead in bed, and he just broke down totally, all the way around. He didn't know what he did wrong. Well, they finally found out it was SIDS. Nothing you could have done, no.
That'd be hard. What did your childhood home look like?
My childhood home?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the big white house.
The farmhouse?
Yeah, the farmhouse. 6 bedrooms upstairs. Well, it was different downstairs because we remodeled it after the downstairs, we redid the kitchen and put in new cupboards. And in fact, Mom didn't even have built-in cupboards. She just had, yes, she did too, but they were between the dining room and the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
When we tore that out, we kind of rechanged all that. I remember the night, maybe it was your folks that were there, that we were sitting in the kitchen and we decided we were going to rearrange everything in our minds, you know. And well, when Vic came home next day, I said, we rearranged the whole house last night. And you know, he actually thought it was a pretty good idea. Usually he didn't think anything I thought it was a good idea. And he pretty much did what we had in our minds thought about. I said, everybody has to walk through the kitchen to get to where they want to go to the rest of the house. I said they should be able to come right in and go straight in. So I said, we already knocked that piece out of wall out in our minds, you know. And we built a half wall in there so that we'd still get air circulation through. We didn't have any air conditioning. Well, but sometimes that house was as cool as could be.
You know, they built it different, didn't they?
You know, I don't know if it was the airflow that made the difference or what, but it would be. I remember one time Paul Keller walked in and he said, "Man, when did you put in air conditioning? Feels good in here." I said, "We don't have air conditioning. It's just the cross flow of air that it created did make a difference." But it kept everybody out of the kitchen that way. There was no all that traffic through the kitchen. They could walk in, they could go to the bathroom, they could go down to the basement without having to come through the kitchen.
That was a good idea.
We had some brains up here, yeah.
That was a good idea. So when you were a child growing up in the upstairs, who did you share a room with? Or were you kind of, by that time, were a lot of the kids out of the house?
I always shared a room with one of my sisters.
Okay.
Probably Vi, as we were growing up more and more.
And
sometimes we laid three in a bed. In the cold, when it was cold winter, we'd say, "Time to turn over."
And what like as a kid growing up, did you have daily chores that you did, or?
Oh yeah, bring in cobs, pick up cobs out of the hog pen. Everybody's houses smelled the same. We laughed around the quilting clubs, when we'd quilt at church basements. So often all the things that we did the same. You know, nobody ate fancy either in those tough years when you didn't have very good crops either. We said, remember when we used to have potatoes and eggs one night for supper, and the next night you had eggs and potatoes, and the next night you went back to potatoes and eggs. Yep. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we used to reminisce once in a while around the quilting clubs, and we found out nobody was better than the next guy at all,
Yeah.
or better off even.
Yeah.
You just probably didn't have quite as many faces around the same table.
Yeah. So what, like, tell me about what were your birthdays like growing up, or
You had a birthday, that's it, goodbye.
nothing?
Nothing. I remember one time I came home from high school. It was December 23rd, and it was winter, of course, bitter cold out. Came in the house, and there was a birthday cake on the middle of the table to remember my birthday. And probably one candle, because probably all we had. And that was the first birthday cake I ever remembered getting.
Oh, wow.
You're how old?
Junior in high school.
Wow.
Birthdays weren't great big party times. Not out in our area anyhow.
Yeah.
I don't know how they were in town, but probably no better off because they couldn't afford much either.
Yeah. So did you ever get any sort of special treat or any sort of little gift that was made for you, or
That was
anything
for Christmas.
for Christmas? What was Christmas like?
Christmas was one gift to each one. And maybe it was just a little. Remember I wanted one Christmas. I wanted one of these great big dolls. I love dolls, and I got them later in life. But I just wanted a big doll, and I got a doll that Christmas. It was just a little bitty china doll, and it had a big. Well, I want to say plastic now, but it wasn't plastic then. It was some other clear red cellophane, I think, maybe. It was full of candy. But the doll was about this big. And I was so feeling sorry for myself. But I got over that. But I wanted my last doll. I wanted it to be one of those great big walking mama dolls. I got to be the mama.
And where had you like, did you hear other kids talking about these dolls, or did you see them in a catalog, or?
Yes, when the catalog came, this page is mine and you can have that one. We claimed certain pages in catalogs too. And we weren't the only ones that did that. Oh, we did that too. You can have the left side, I'll take the right side. The right side is mine, you know. Anything on the right side is mine, you can't have any of it. We claimed everything in the catalogs. That was our fun, getting the catalogs. There was the Montgomery Ward catalog, Sears and Roebuck catalog, and there was another one yet too. I can't even remember the name of it anymore. But yes, the Christmas catalogs coming in the mail, man, that was a big event.
The Christmas catalog.
We could pick out our Christmases. We never got it, but we could pick it out.
Let's see. We're not really going in any order here. Sorry. So tell me. Go ahead.
Again, we still always look forward to Christmas because we didn't have anything else to compare it to. You know, we never dreamed that our grandkids would have thousands of dollars of worth of stuff for Christmas.
Yeah.
How about Easter or any other holidays? Christmas was the only one that really was a celebration.
Well, Thanksgiving we always had roast goose. Mom always raised geese every year. We never had. I think the first time I tasted turkey I was invited over to Keller's house when Vic and I were just dating, and she had turkey for Christmas, for Thanksgiving dinner. I thought, yuck, this is no Thanksgiving dinner to me. I thought it tasted horrible. Took me a long time to like turkey. Because we always had the greasy stuff, the roast goose or roast duck, but it had good meat on it. Yum.
I agree with you. I think that's better poultry than turkey. But you would raise your own goose. You wouldn't go hunt one down. You would.
Oh no, Mom always raised ducks and geese. They pooped all over the sidewalks. We didn't have that much sidewalk. So they had to poop it close together to hit the sidewalk.
How long did you date Grandpa before you?
How long did I date him?
Yeah, before you got engaged. You said you were dating Grandpa when you would go over for the turkey. How late did you guys, or how long did you date?
I don't know. In his mind, it probably was for years. I just wasn't with him.
You just went to school. You went to school with him, right?
Yeah,
how you guys
high
met.
school.
Yeah.
I never knew him before when I started to high school in Humphrey, I knew of one girl,
Really?
Ellen Pfeiffer. I kind of knew because my aunt and uncle would go and visit them when they'd come and visit us. And I used to wonder why the heck they were going to Pfeiffer's house in town. But it was on the van side. I think that they were, and ours was on the Rustler side.
Okay. So there was some common relation there.
It's just that we weren't related to each other.
Sure.
Yeah. But they called him Aunt Hattie and Uncle Frank too, and I thought, how come? In fact, years and years later, I said to one of the Pfeiffer girls, how come you had, my aunt and uncle were the same as your aunt and uncle? I don't know, I never did understand that, she said. But I think in my grown up years, I can figure it out. It just was through the other relationships.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so you were coming to Humphrey from Cornley?
Mm-hmm. 5 miles down the road, and we didn't know each other.
Wow.
Now the kids know everybody from every town around the country. Even when my kids were in school, they were better acquainted, but not quite as much as they are nowadays.
So when you went to school in Cornley, how would you get to school?
Oh, I think my dad pretty much took me in the mornings to school, or all of us, and then at night we walked home from school about 2 miles, which wasn't too bad. A little cold and cool in wintry weather, but otherwise if it was snowy out, they'd come in the bobsled. And I remember the kids, or they'd take us to school in the bobsled in the morning too. we'd sail over that rock hard snow, and the harnesses automatically jingled because the horses were going so fast. And so it sounded like jingle bells coming down the road, even though we had not a bell on us. And I remember Linda saying one time, "Oh, you guys had all the fun when you were going to school." I said, "Hey, do you remember what it feels like to be cold?" I said, "We were freezing in that open sled.
Yeah.
The faster you went, the colder it seemed like it got."
Yeah.
So she agreed, well, maybe it wasn't all fun, but it had to be some fun. I
And
said,
then would you take your lunch to school?
yep, always. There was no lunch programs at all. We took fried chicken that tasted like fried chicken. A lot of times Mom just would keep a couple of pieces left over from supper. Or, I don't even remember buying cheese much ever. Whatever was around, that's what we made a sandwich out of.
Yeah.
A lot of cold egg sandwiches.
Yeah.
Not the best, but if you're hungry, you eat it.
Yeah.
It's like now, I'm not hungry, but I eat it anyhow.
We've come full circle now.
Yeah, life is coming around in a different circle.
Now if you could just ride a sleigh to the lunchroom every day, that'd be all right.
And what were your school days like?
Well, the school days like,
Were you growing up like in Cornley?
we had nuns teaching us. There were no such thing as lay teachers back then.
Okay.
And it seemed like there was enough nuns around to do it too, because I think they used to make a girl go to the convent. Every family was expected to send someone to the religious life. There was plenty of priests around. They changed some of those rules too. I remember when my two aunts would come home for a visit, and they'd go around visiting all the relatives. Well, the first thing they'd see when they'd see us girls, they'd say, "Well, which one of you is going back with us to be a sister?" And I like a smart ass, spoke up one day. I said, "Well, we already are sisters. We don't have to go someplace to be one." Not the smartest thing to do.
And then they said, "We don't want her."
That's probably what they said, but they didn't say it out loud.
So you would be taught, it was through 8th grade?
Yeah,
You said-
eighth grade in Cornley. That's what. Then after that, I had to go to Humphrey, and I graduated with, I think. In fact, that picture might be in the bottom desk drawer. It might be. I used to have some things down in there, and of course, when we moved down here, we just picked up the desk and moved it down. So
Bottom
the
desk
very
drawer.
bottom drawer
There might be a
on
picture
the
of her
left-hand side could be.
graduating class, maybe.
There's a whole boatload of pictures in here. You know what it would be in? Oh, right here maybe. This looks like it would be. Not you and Grandpa.
Yeah, that's,
Married. Oh, here's a whole bunch of old photos.
oh yeah, here's my 8th grade graduation picture. We look like a bunch of old ladies.
That's your 8th grade graduation picture?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Ruth Colwell, me, and this one is my cousin Ethel. She went to the convent. She's in 75 years now.
Oh, wow.
This is Rose Forstall. I don't know where they moved away from Cornley. She's probably dead and gone. This was Gerald Hemmer. He's gone. And this is Richard Clausen. He stayed with his grandparents. He was an illegitimate child, and that was a terrible thing to do back in those days. But I didn't know it at the time that he was living with his grandparents.
Oh, okay.
And
I mean, did your mom make this dress, or?
No, actually, that was a boughten dress. Probably the first time but look how long they were.
Yeah.
Look at hers.
Yeah. Well, and hers, you're right, she does kind of look like, I mean, with her button-up jacket and stuff, that does look like an older.
But yeah, there was nothing above the knees. There was no wearing of shorts or anything like that, ever.
So, did you go into town to buy this dress or order it, or?
Came into Columbus.
Oh.
I got to come along.
Just special for 8th grade graduation?
It seems like we came into Columbus for, that's a lot of years ago. This is just a bunch of ladies from Silver Creek that I belonged to a club down there with.
Oh, the sewing club.
I don't know why it's got a clippy around it.
It has your
there's-
graduation picture. Is this your high school graduation picture?
Yeah,
May 1940.
that's out in the east side of the house on the farm.
Okay.
Yep. I guess I kind of forgot that I had these old pictures down in there, but I had collected them for some reason or another. And
That's a great picture to have. So, were the dresses white, or?
yeah, they were white.
They were white.
And we wore blue and yellow ribbons. Don't ask me why.
Oh, sure, I see the girls. I saw the boys right away, but now I see you girls have them
They had
pinned on.
a little flower up there of some kind, and a blue and a yellow ribbon.
So did they have a special mass for you, or just this was a
Yeah.
special?
Yeah, it was probably on a Sunday,
Okay.
and we just graduated and had a mass, and that was about it.
Did any of these, well, no, nobody would have come with you into Humphrey if all you knew was one girl.
Yeah, I'm the only one that went to high school.
None of the rest went to high school.
This one went right off to the convent out of 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Wow.
She had hurt her leg one time, had a bad infection in it, and she was laid in bed for months till that leg healed up. And I guess in that length of time she decided, I'm going to the convent.
Wow.
That was her sign, I guess. I don't know. They used to live right across the road from us to the west. And her brother, who was a twin to his sister, was born on that farm, lived on that farm all his life until recently they brought him into Columbus to one of his daughter's places to live with his daughter.
Oh, wow.
But he lived there, he never lived anywhere else, just on that one farm.
Oh, wow.
Born on it. I thought he was going to die out there, actually, but he probably got weaker and weaker too, and couldn't swing it out on the continent. Rather than her going out there, you're coming into Columbus with me, she said.
Yeah.
So I don't know where in town here they live even, or what his daughter's married name is. I don't know that either.
So then, do you know what these other two girls did after 8th grade?
Lost her I think she died eventually over the course of time. She probably did too, but I just don't know. They moved up to Walt Hill, Nebraska, wherever that is, up in the northern part of the state. Then I lost her totally.
Okay.
You didn't write letters to each other. Who had 3 cents to mail a letter?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was only 2 cents at that time. I don't know.
Well, that's cool that you have that picture.
Did you have radio?
I remember us having a radio, and I remember Dad coming in and feeling it to see if it was warm when he came in the house.
To see if you'd been listening the whole day?
Yeah. we couldn't say we didn't have it on. Oh, he was he was the one that was paying the bills. He was the only one that was bringing in a little dab of money. You didn't waste electricity. You didn't waste a darn thing.
Now,
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in fact, I think if you could drink water twice, he'd make you drink it water.
Now, your house was one of the only ones to have electricity, right?
Yes, it was. It's because we had this, I don't know, I remember this big motor in the basement on a cement foundation. And ever so often he'd have to start that thing to generate electricity, and then it would, I don't know how long it could operate on that, but when it would start, when the lights would start getting dimmer and dimmer, knew it was time to start the motor again. But I don't ever remember living with lamplight until I got married. Then we had that old beat-up farm we lived on, had no electricity. There was no such thing as rural electrification even then yet. It was after that when his folks finally got wires strung out to their farms east of Humphrey.
Really?
A lot of people didn't have electricity. Well, that was in the early 40s.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
how old were you when you got married?
24, I think I was.
24.
Yeah.
And how did, so did you only just date Grandpa? Or did you date other guys too?
I have to think about that. I think I dated when I lived in Fremont, when I worked at the ordnance plant. I dated a soldier for a while. I wore his ring for a while too, but I sent it back.
You sent it back to him?
Yeah, he wasn't Catholic. I wanted to take a chance on somebody I didn't know.
Yep.
I didn't want to lose my faith. That's all I had to hang on to. I didn't even make fabulous wages when I worked for the ordnance plant. I think wages weren't fabulous then yet. They seemed fabulous because nothing else had gone up so crazy high either. But I was trying to think what I made on my very first job, and it seemed like it was $2 a week. And then it got up to $5 a week. And then I went up to about $50 a month, and it's like, wow, I'm in the money.
So after high school, you went to Fremont?
Not right away. I went to Lincoln to business school for 1 year, and my sisters put me through that. And as soon as I got done with that 1 year of business college, then I started paying them back as soon as I got a job, $5 at a time.
Oh, wow. And what was your first job?
I think I worked at the, I think I can see the building yet, but what the heck was it? It was a city job of some kind. And I just did not fabulous office work, but whatever it
Worked
was.
in the office, different odds and ends.
Mm-hmm.
And then you moved to Fremont after
Yeah.
that? Or that was in
Well,
Fremont?
even Vivian and Sylvia, my two friends in Lincoln, they worked at the telephone company, and then we heard that there was a chance to get a job with the company or the business that was building up the, what was it? It was an Air Force, a military establishment out in north of Fremont. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Lots of things I'm forgetting.
Okay.
But anyhow, they decided they were going to go with this construction company that was building up this military establishment. So I thought, well, I might as well go with them. So we all went up there to Fremont, didn't know a soul or what we were going to do or if we were even going to get a job. Just took chances. Well, we weren't that far from home. Sylvia lived at Brainerd, Nebraska. Vivian lived at Waverly. That was where her folks were. Mine were Humphrey. I suppose mine was the farthest away. But we just, I don't know, we didn't figure on getting lost. Nothing was very well built up then yet. It was after we left those areas yet that things began to become more populated and more heavily lived in.
So did you three live together then?
Yeah, we did. We all lived together in one bedroom at first. And then which one of us moved out? Vivian, I think, did, and Sylvia and I still stayed. She got a room. You just had a bedroom. You didn't have an apartment.
Just a bedroom.
Yeah, just a bedroom is all you had. Nothing fancy either, I'll tell you. Yeah, Sylvia and I used to exchange clothes. She had 2 dresses and I had 2 dresses. Sometimes she'd wear mine or sometimes I'd wear hers. It didn't bother us. We were all in the same boat. We'll make it somehow. Probably wasn't going to be much better at home. And there was certainly no jobs in Humphrey for anybody. Those little towns had nothing available. Now you can get jobs around Humphrey. You can move to Humphrey and get a job. It's amazing to me that this can happen over the course of time.
So then after you were in Fremont,
I think we've got 3 banks in Humphrey. I thought, boy, somebody's got bucks up there.
to need 3 banks to put it in.
Yeah.
So then after you lived in Fremont, then did you go back to Humphrey? Is that when?
Let's see, did I must have, because I worked in Lincoln for I don't know how long before we went to Fremont. And then I guess, yeah, by that time, see, Lorette stayed at home then and helped Mom out on the farm, because Mom was getting older, she wasn't getting younger. So then when she got married and left home, then I just went home to help Mom out. Made sure, she had swollen legs and it was harder for her to get around. And with her, she had just a 4th grade education. She could write and she could tell you what's what, but she just never had a big education. I think of people coming now into the United States, they want a free ride right away. All these people coming from other countries. They didn't expect that back then. Well, there were no government programs of any kind. They came in hoping to find a home, hoping to find a place to live and to get their roots in and start living here. And I think that was a little more honorable than nowadays. They come up from Mexico, but there's so many Mexicans here in Columbus, it's unbelievable. Just gobs of them.
Because you weren't dating him when you were in Fremont.
Oh, Vic, you mean? Yeah. When you said grandpa, I thought of my dad.
Sorry, I'm sorry. My grandpa, Vic. You weren't dating him. It's when you came back home to help your mom.
Well, he was in service then.
Okay.
Don never went to service, but Vic did. I guess Grandma and Grandpa probably figured one boy is enough in service. Because then Don stayed home to help with the corn picking. Because there were no corn pickers either, except your 2 hands that Maxine would go home and help with corn picking too. Girls pick corn, everybody picked corn in the fall of the year.
That was your harvester, was everybody walking the rows, picking the corn.
Yeah, you could get hit once in a while. You throw the ear up, If you're in the way, you might get whopped on the side of the head. Of course, you laughed it off.
Yeah.
Because once in a while it was intentional.
So did you help pick corn too?
I never picked an ear of corn except sweet corn. My brother Lee said, I don't need any gals out there getting in my way. My dad thought we should all be out there picking corn. He said, Pop, quit pushing those girls out in the field. They don't need to be out there. We didn't go out any. I never ever picked an ear of field corn. Never had to learn how to swing them up there right. They had, your wagon had like a bang board on one side. It was called a bang board. So when you threw it, it would hit the board and fall into the wagon. Once in a while it sailed over the top when you got too energetic. Then you'd have to go around and pick them up.
Yeah, didn't waste anything.
Well, then eventually the corn pickers came in. They were little pieces of equipment to begin with. But boy, now, oh my gosh, When you see those Grisons go out in the field, holy smokes, they have equipment.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a farm in every piece of equipment, I think.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You walked the rows, yanked the corn off, threw it in off the bang board into the bucket. So did you have a horse that was pulling it along the way?
A team of horses that knew what to do.
Wow.
You'd holler, get up, whoa, get up, whoa. You and the horses had a conversation back and forth. Horse talk.
Yeah.
Wow. So then when Grandpa came back from the service, how did you guys
Start.
connect?
How did we start dating?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I can't remember.
That's okay.
I don't think if he called on the phone, because we didn't have a phone like this, we had a box on the wall, and it rang with a little crank on the side. I just don't remember Mom visiting on the phone that much either.
Right. She didn't have time.
You had a signal, because our signal was a short ring and a long ring and a short ring. That was our signal. Somebody else might have had two longs, a long and a long one. If you heard the phone go long, 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 that meant everybody get on the phone and listen to what's going on. Somebody has a fire, they might need you.
Oh, wow.
That was our fire system. And every once in a while there would be, or if somebody had an accident, they might need help.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
It was a party line. That was what it's called, party line.
Huh.
And could you pick it up at any time and listen to other people talking?
Yes,
Yeah.
you could eavesdrop. It was all right. Just don't mention their name.
So was that something fun that you guys would do, is just listen on the phone sometimes? Or?
Oh, sure. They're going to Columbus tomorrow.
Oh, that is funny. Earlier you said that, how old were you when you first drove a car? And
Oh, probably 16 when Dad told me to bring the car home from Cornley, and I didn't even know how to drive. Never had my hands on a steering wheel other than to play like I was driving as a kid. Bring the car home from Cornley. Papa, I don't know how to drive. Ach, there's nothing to it, he'd say. Just have them back it out of the garage. Then you get in, and you shift it in low, keep it there, and drive slow. He said. He forgot to tell me how to stop it, though. I get to coming in our long driveway. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to stop this thing? I think I just choked it off. Well, of course, they were built differently than they are now, too, I think, because you had to shift it in low and then intermediate and then down into high. I think that's the way it went back then. But
yeah. So when you were in like Lincoln and Fremont and stuff, how would you guys get around? How would you?
Bus.
You just took the buses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to know the bus schedule. You had to get yourself downtown to the bus depot. I don't even think we had taxis in Fremont that I can think of. I don't know. I probably wouldn't have spent a dime on a taxi anyhow to walk those streets.
Yeah.
I'm still extremely conservative, I think. Yeah, when I think of the kids now, what they get for Christmas and stuff like that, it's like, is that really necessary to be happy?
No.
We thought we were pretty happy.
Yeah.
As long as we had a scoop shovel or something to sit on to slide down the hill, we did it. Oh, we rode a lot of scoop shovels down the hill.
Were you always did you wear dresses? Did you have
Dresses, definitely.
never?
No
you put
slacks.
on never slacks.
No
even
slacks,
around
no
the house?
no shorts,
Okay.
just dresses.
Always dresses.
I remember one time, I think my sister Ange made me a pair of shorts that were just above the knee, and then she made me a halter top, which wasn't too much. My dad, I think, wanted to take a whip on me, but he didn't.
And how old were you then, do you think?
Oh, I probably was high school age, I'm thinking.
Depression. What, did you realize things had changed? Because you were pretty young. So did you realize that things were changing, or did your way of life kind of stay the same?
I don't know. We were so used to just doing whatever we could do day by day. We never thought,
It just kind of stayed the same for you.
we never had a lot, so we didn't worry. We weren't too concerned about it. I don't, at least I can't remember. I was not, at an age of total maturity then yet. Like I'm going off on my own. I was still at home, and so I had a home, and I felt lucky yet. I never even gave it a second thought, I don't think. When you haven't had a lot, you never get spoiled.
You don't remember your dad or mom really having conversations about the whole ordeal happening at the time around the kitchen table or anything like that?
Probably didn't pay that much attention to it. We were so used to life as it was.
Yeah.
Would have probably been different had we lived in town. But we didn't, we just saw our own family mostly during the week.
Raised your own food and
All I can remember one time is, I remember some of my older brothers they were quite a bit older than I ever was. And I can just remember that Mom got really upset with Dad one day, and she said, "How come every one of your sons can drive a better car and we have to drive one that's got the window broken out of it, no matter what the weather is? We have to cope with the weather." She said, "I don't want to live this way all my life. I want something better than my sons can have." And Dad came home with a different car that very day. She finally got the courage to get, I think women were supposed to keep their mouths shut. Probably at that time, whatever Pop said, that was the law. I think she just got tired of the law. Because we drove, the weather could be terrible, but the one window was broken out of that car. And I don't know if they couldn't fix him then, or if he just didn't want to fix him. Well, my dad kind of liked his liquor too. Every time he went to town, it meant a short stop for him. But Mom got just fed up. Yes, F-E-D, fed up.
yes. Tell how you started crocheting. Is that something that you learned as a child growing up, or when did you learn to crochet? And
When did I learn to crochet?
like, did your grandma or your mom teach you?
I'm sure that Mom taught me as much as she could, because she wasn't real literate, and she practically had to teach herself how to read and such, and to follow it. She showed me what a single crochet was, or a double crochet, or once around the needle, and finally, I guess I began to understand the language too. And if I made a wrong stitch, so what? If it was always the wrong stitch, that's the way it went.
And then you decided to start making Afghans for your grandkids. How did that start?
Well, let's see, how did I learn to do that angle stitch? I think I saw one that my sister Lorette was doing. And it was those little squares, like the one right back there. But I was crocheting before that. I think when you were just a tiny baby, and I went out there to Grand Island where you were living at the time, and I made a square of this granny square. It was squares too, but a little different design. and a different method of doing it. And I made this one square, and I thought, well, I like those colors, oranges and yellows and browns. And so then I got more yarn and made a big afghan out of it. It's at home yet.
And that was kind of your first afghan that you made?
It seems like it was the first one, because then I had to set all those squares together.
Oh.
I think you did it with just by hand stitching, or maybe you could crochet them together. I just don't remember. It's been such a long time since I made that thing. And I made several of those, but only one great big one, and then some smaller ones. So I've got afghans all over the place.
And then you started doing it for graduations, and then
Yeah,
pretty
then I
soon
thought,
you didn't know what you were getting into.
And I enjoyed doing it. It was fun. And I thought, I wonder if I can make 49 grandkids happy. They told me I made, was it Brooke, happy. She wondered if, since I'm in a home now, if I'd have had time to make her a blanket, as she put it. And Chris said she just screamed when she saw hers. Well, I did those years ago already,
Yeah.
thinking, well, maybe I won't make it that long till those little kids get grown up. And I'm surprised I am still here yet, too. But I made sure I had 49 of one. I hope I've got Scotty's, no, not Scott,
Jacob?
Ben.
Oh, Ben.
Ben's, I hope it's there down in the basement, because Mark brought the girls up the other day when I had them go down to get them. Boy, there's got to be one more down there yet.
Well, if we stop
Because I
by-
don't think I'll be able to make, he may get that big brown and orange one otherwise,
And I
even
bet
though
you
it's been
love it.
used. So yeah, I made a lot of afghans. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a challenge and it was fun. But I could do it now. Now I don't get that hand moving right.
Well,
The brain don't want to do it anymore. Physically, I think I'd be able to do it, but the brain gets waddled up in there somehow or another.
Well, it probably kept you warm in the winters too when you.
Oh yeah, yeah. You didn't want to do it in the summertime.
Yeah.
Wintertime was great,
Mm-hmm.
with all this hanging over your legs.
What can you think of? So we talked about Christmases when you were a child. What about Christmases with your kids when you were as a mom? What can you think about? What was Christmas time like, or can you think?
Well, I remember one time I said to Vic, just because you and I didn't have bicycles, why can't we get our kids at least some secondhand ones? I said, I think there's a place in Columbus where this fellow redoes bicycles and resells them. I said, why don't you try and find out where that is, and let's get the kids a couple of bicycles. I don't know what he had to pay for them, but he got them 2 bicycles. But we didn't tell them that they were going to possibly get bicycles, because I wanted to make sure they were in my living room before I said. Well, anyhow, Linda, we heard her prowling up and down the steps half the night before she finally fell asleep, because she was so curious about what was going to happen. And then about 5 o'clock in the morning, Vic went out to the barn, brought these bicycles and set them in the living room. About 6 or 6:30, she ran. We heard her going down the steps. We just were waiting. All of a sudden, you never heard this blast of noise. Bicycles! Bicycles! And she's screaming and screaming. Now, boy, bingo, out of all these beds came all these kids tearing down steps as fast as they could go. Bicycles, bicycles. They were secondhand, but they didn't care. They didn't see secondhand written on them.
Nope.
They were so excited. Oh, man.
Oh, I bet that was awesome.
It made you feel really good,
Yeah.
because they were just so excited.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a couple of hair bows or something insignificant or a piece of clothing. Well, I needed that anyhow.
Yeah.
So
Oh, fun.
I think he kind of felt too. They were blue and white, and painted blue and white. And the guy kind of fixed them up to look pretty good, you know. So then we got him some more bicycles. Steve's the only one I think that ever got a brand new bicycle. About that time when we could have, if he'd have had the post office job right away, well, I don't know, maybe they didn't even pay that much at the post office for those years ago, I don't know. But I just can hear her screaming, bicycles, bicycles. I think she can hear herself yelling yet after all those years.
Yeah. So, would you make a special, what Christmas Eve? Did you guys go to Mass Christmas Day? Did you go Christmas Eve and Christmas Day?
Well, yeah, I think we didn't always have like midnight Mass. Sometimes they had like 5 o'clock in the morning Mass. And I don't know, I'm trying to think, did we take all the kids to midnight Mass? Of course, usually Vic would go to one Mass and I'd go to another. So if he went to 5 o'clock, if that's when the men's choir sang, then I'd go and my choir sang. So usually I think we went half and half.
Okay.
Of course, I probably didn't belong to a choir. No, I didn't belong to a choir when my kids were real little. You couldn't. Although I can remember Steve being pretty small when we would sing funeral masses. There's Jeanette Worth would be up there and Carolyn would be sitting on the step. There'd be Steve sitting beside her. There were about 3 or 4 little kids sitting on the step in front of their moms while we sang funeral masses. And Jeanette is the one who lives in Tulia, Texas. She's the one that sent me this Afghan this last year for just a memory thing.
Oh, neat. That's nice. Okay, so tell us what your wedding day was like.
Muddy, rainy, awful weather. It was April 9th of 19... I don't even remember what year it was anymore. I didn't think I'd ever forget, but I'm forgetting lots of things.
That's okay.
But it rained almost all the time. People got stuck. We had a long driveway. If we'd have just waited another week, I think it would have been better. But who knows?
Yeah. And so you would have the ceremony at the church, and then everybody came out to your house, your parents' house.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they came right away in the morning, but yeah, you got married in the morning. There was no afternoon masses at that time. You got married at 9 o'clock Mass in the morning. And I still can't understand why the school kids were given the privilege of, they were expected to go to Mass every day. Well, priests couldn't have a Mass at 8 and then another one at 9. So the school kids all sat in their usual places. And yes, they were all up in the front of the church instead of the family.
Really?
During your wedding.
And you did not tell, and you didn't even know that you could have had that changed, because you never ever told the priest what was what. He was the boss.
Huh.
And when I look at some of my old wedding pictures and I see all these kids up in front of it, no, those kids shouldn't have even been up in the front of the church. They could have been in church, but they didn't have to be way up in front.
Yeah.
At least you didn't have to feed them too.
No, we didn't have to feed them. But my Mrs. Sabina Bender gave us our wedding breakfast at her house. You had to have a breakfast too.
Oh, wow.
And she was a good friend of Grandma Keller's best friend. They were in the same neighborhood in the farm. And she even had the little breakfast table all decorated up with streamers up to the light fixtures and attached to the table. I don't remember what we ate for breakfast, but yeah, then from there, then we went home to the wedding reception. I don't remember what we had for a wedding dinner even. The neighbor ladies all came in and cooked the dinner, brought salads in. And we had a refrigerator, or an electric refrigerator, where most people didn't have electric refrigerators then yet even. Lots of things change. Now you go out and you have your kids' graduation dinner catered in. You invited all your neighbors. I remember my Aunt Hattie was there, and from Spalding. That was a big trip to take. And there was a fellow by the name of Jim Nice. He played an accordion, and he brought his accordion and provided some music during the day. We had a dance at the Humphrey Ballroom that night, and Duffy Bellrod probably played for the band because Vic was playing with him at the time. I don't know who sat in for him that night. I didn't pay attention.
Yeah. And tell us about your dress. Where'd you get it? Or
My dress? I got it out of the closet from my sister. We wore the same wedding dress, and I didn't have to go shopping for something and spend bucks that I didn't have. Didn't bother me. I was going to wear it one day anyhow. I wore my mom's wreath. It was a waxed orange blossoms, and Vic wore my dad's boutonniere. It was waxed orange blossoms. When Barb got married, they did the same. She wore the wreath. Larry wore the boutonniere. When Jody and Ray got married, they did the same. She wore the wreath. And so Barb has the wreath and the veil, Mom's veil. We couldn't take that out of the picture frame because it might fall all to pieces after all those years.
yeah.
But she made it, nobody else wanted to use the waxed orange blossoms because that's Barb's now. They just said, that's Barb's. So that's what happened.
And then, so tell us about, so after you got married, you said you moved to an old farmhouse.
A beat-up old farmhouse that hadn't been lived in for years. I went from almost having modern house to going back into the carrying water and everything else.
And where was that at?
You know where Don and Phil used to live? It was on that place.
Okay. So it was in Vic's family. That's why you moved into that house?
Well, no, it didn't belong. It belonged to a lady in Columbus. I don't remember. Anyhow, it was in. She didn't do a thing for the place at all. Not a thing. You did something. You did it yourself. Anyhow, we lived there a couple of years, 2 or 3, something like that. And I said, I hate this place. It'll never feel like a home to me. Our lifestyle is just going to go downhill rather than ever get better. And so then Vic started looking for a different place to rent, which was up by Lindsay, north of Lindsay. No man's land, you might say. And anyhow, when we're leaving there, I said something about no man in his right mind would even want to live here after we're done with this thing. Marion said one time, I think the right people got hold of that place, because Don and Phil lived there their entire lifetime after that. But they brought in a different house. They took the old house and moved it away and made a machine shed or something out of it, and part of it into a garage. And then they put not a new house, but a better house on the foundation. But I always thought that was kind of a joke when she said,
funny.
The right family got a hold of this thing, she said. Well, you didn't have a job. I didn't have a job. Vic depended on his music, playing in a dance band and farming, and raising a little livestock. You just didn't have a whole bunch of livestock to start out with either. My folks gave me a cow And his folks gave him a hog, I think, and a couple of chickens. Yeah, you just didn't expect to have piles of money all of a sudden. You just were glad to have something.
Did you farm crop at your old house too, right after you were married?
Did I?
Did you have crops? Did you have?
Oh yeah, you raised corn and probably some small grain. Yeah, and you didn't have all this machinery either. You had to go home and get some from Dad and from your father-in-law, borrow it and take it back again. Took a long time to ever get something together to just feel like it was your own.
That's what I'm thinking. Moving into a house after that or a farm after that would be difficult because you'd almost have to start all over again, someplace new, right? Or
I don't remember. I just don't even remember.
yeah.
You were just willing to do whatever you had to do. This wasn't too smart then. I'm still not too smart.
Very smart, actually. Very smart, very resourceful. I think there's a lot of people that wouldn't make it right now.
Oh, I think we borrowed money a lot. I think there was hardly a year went by that we didn't borrow money, but then you had to pay it back or else pay high interest, you know, so that made you want to pay back as soon as you could. We were so used to doing without, we didn't know what it was like to not have to do without.
Yeah.
Yeah, having
What
had.
did I do?
Yeah, Grandma Keller had a gas lantern, gas light, and she gave it to us. So we had to get the special gas for it, so it'd be very, very clean. And it had little mantles on it. Oh, it gave a bright light, much better than a lamp. But it was.
Like a kerosene lantern? Is that what
It was gas.
Oh, gas. Oh.
Yeah, you had to pump air into this tank, I remember, a little pumper, and put pressure in it, and it gave a bright, bright light. You could read the paper by it real easy, but just don't touch the paper to the mantle. Whoop, little fire.
Have kids?
Yeah, one time I had to go and get her, and George was about, must have been when Dan was a baby. She came and helped me out for a week or two, and I remember the kids they thought it was just so great to take a turn to sleep with Aunt Hattie. And the kids I get tonight with Aunt Hattie, and so somebody else said, she was feeling pretty good about it, and then all of a sudden George said, how about Friday night, Aunt Hattie? She burst into laughing so hard I thought she was going to fall off a perch. George got kind of scared. He didn't know for sure what he said that made her laugh so hard, or was she really laughing?
Oh, that's funny.
He is about 3 years old. How about Friday night, Aunt Hattie?
But otherwise, you didn't normally have somebody come and help you when you get home after
For
that.
about a week, yeah, I did.
And would it always be Aunt Hattie or sometimes?
No, Aunt Hattie, she was my last resort that particular time.
Oh, okay.
No, it was, I remember this Jeanette helped me out one time. I was getting pretty desperate that time. I don't remember which one of the kids it was with, because I thought, boy, if I don't get somebody pretty soon, I'm going to be on my own for a week. Or, you know, I never kept him more than, then I found another little neighbor girl who I didn't really know well. She was more of the Tarnov area. She came and helped me one time. And, well, I think that with Linda it was Angela. And I didn't want Angela anymore because I thought, I just didn't like the way she treated Linda as a tiny baby even. If she cried too much, she'd whop her on the seat and she'd say, now you gotta be quiet. You gotta settle down, you know. Well, no, that's not the way to talk to a brand new baby. I never asked her a second time.
Yeah.
She had no patience with small children. She never had any of her own. She just had some adopted, well, what do I want to say? When you become a,
Oh, stepchildren.
what?
Stepchildren.
Yeah, stepchildren. She just had stepchildren. They didn't take to her too well either. So she had no patience.
Did your mom ever come and help, or was she?
No, I never asked her to help me because my dad couldn't do without Mom. He had.
And your mom was older.
Yeah, she was quite a bit older.
Yeah.
At least she seemed really elderly. If Mom would have been gone, Dad would have been lost. Know what to do. He didn't know how to cook anything. He'd have been
Starving.
yeah totally lost.
Wow. And where did your parents always? Where did they go? Did they always stay in that house?
No, they lived on the farm for a lot of years. Then they eventually moved into Humphrey and lived in a little, not a very modern, not a very nice fancy house or anything. It was about a block north of where I lived and about a half a block over on the north side of the street.
Okay.
The house isn't there anymore, and a brand new home was built in that. But that was where their little house was.
Okay. And then is that when you guys moved out onto the farm, or when did you guys move out to the farm?
When did we buy the farm? I don't remember.
Was somebody there between your parents and you guys buying it?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Because when they moved into town, I can't remember what happened. I guess I never really thought seriously about all those
That's all right.
years.
That's all right.
Oh, she made good roast goose and her dressing, the stuffing in those birds were really good. She made Hassenpfeffer, that was with rabbit,
Oh, I've never heard of that.
stewed rabbit in a kind of a gravy. That was good with dumplings.
Oh.
Yum. I don't know, maybe those are old German dishes or something too. But everything always tastes, well, of course, maybe when you're hungry it tastes better too. Now I don't do anything, so I can't compliment them very often on their cooking here because it's not like Mom made.
No.
And then I always add, and it's not like I made either.
When you had some good cooking.
Boy, you know, one time somebody I made that potato salad that Barb gave me the recipe for. These were people from Omaha that had come out to Humphrey after we'd gone on a trip to Israel. And they had invited us into Omaha one weekend for a dinner and just to get together. So we thought, well, we're going to do them an honor and invite them out to Humphrey. And Lois Pfeiffer had said she and Bob had been on the trip. That was after Vic had died. And we said, well, we could do a dinner for them and let's have an outdoor yard mass and Father will come and have this mass for us. And so we did it pretty much in their backyard. And we had served a meal. We fried chicken and potato salad, and I made a great big boat thing of potato salad. This one lady had filled her plate and she had gone back to her meal and she sat down and she took a bite of the potato salad. Oh, this is the best potato salad I ever tasted in my life. She said, I'm going back and get more before it's all gone. And I thought, that's the best compliment I could have ever had on that. But Barb I don't know if Barb made that recipe up or what, but it is so good. And there was a trick that Grandma Keller told me about too, about potato salad. She said, always, when you get your potatoes all peeled and chopped into little small pieces, Then put your vinegar and your salt on your potato right away and stir that in and let it set while you make the rest of the dressing. And she said, because it's the mayonnaise that keeps the flavor from going into the potato.
So you've saturated the potato with flavor, and then you put the mayonnaise and dressing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no
And she
wonder
said-
it's so good.
And I think that one little trick was the thing that even helped it, because the flavor is in there and then it gets locked in with the mayonnaise around the outside
The
or
only
whatever.
potato salad I'll eat is that recipe. I don't like potato salad, but I would eat.
It is so good.
It's so good. It's so fresh. It's not real heavy.
And there is some sugar in it, but it's not sweet. You know, it's not
Right.
sweet.
It's
It's just, and
That's good.
I try to tell people some of these tricks that I've learned over the course of time. Grandma Keller told us this, or so-and-so told us this, you know. And sometimes they will actually believe you.
Do you have a favorite vacation? It doesn't have to be from your childhood. It can be as an adult, anytime. What was one of your favorite
One that I
vacations?
remember of.
Or trips?
We didn't go on vacations. Any one that we went on, huh?
Yeah, like Israel or just
And
even
that,
Hawaii.
that was, yeah, we went to Hawaii. That was a post office convention.
Okay.
I'm not a great traveler. Even now, I don't get excited about somebody going somewhere. I don't care if you want to go. I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Traveling was not my big event. Vic always said, he always would say, we should go somewhere. I said, well, plan something. I don't care where we go. I guess I wasn't enthusiastic. So he'd complain about wanting to go somewhere, but he'd never plan anything. If you'd have planned it, I'd have said, okay. I'd have just said, okay. But he never planned anything, so he always, the one trip he took alone, he had to go alone. But we did go to Israel. I mean, he planned the Israel trip, and we had it all paid for and ready to go. Well, then we had to call it off. Well, then Bob Pfeiffer came one day, and he said, he and Lois both came. He said, Ann, why don't you plan to go with us? You know, I just thought, oh, I can't go alone. I can't go alone. I was like, oh, I don't think I can do that. Well, he said, we'll take care of you. We'll be your helper. I said, you mean you'd be my guardian angel? I sure will, he said. I said, well, let me think about it. I think I had to really think, can I do this myself? Well, then I thought, if I don't go with them now, I know I never will go anywhere. I knew that. And so I called him back and I said, okay, I'll go with you if you'll be my guardian angel. Okay, he said, we'll be right with you. And they were right. I probably ruined their trip for
I
them.
doubt it. I bet they had a great time. Are you glad you went?
I am glad I went, yeah.
Yeah.
I found out I can do things alone. I don't have to always depend on somebody else.
Yeah.
So, yep,
That was a big trip.
that was. I remember that plane ride. I thought we'd never get there. 18 hours in the air. And all you saw was water below you or sky above you, or you saw sky all around you. And it was you could go from one deck to the next on the plane. It was a 2-layer plane. I thought, how can this thing get off of the ground with all these people on it? 2 layers. So that was what you did. To loosen your bones a little bit, you'd walk and you'd go upstairs and you'd walk the aisle and come back down again. That was the only time I ever was on a plane that had two stories.
Yeah, I've never been.
But imagine how many tons that must have been. Plus,
Fuel that must have taken.
I don't know how many people were on our trip, but where was I? Not quite a while after that trip, and I thought, I think that's the person that was on our trip. I think I saw the name in a paper, in the Catholic paper or something. Yeah. Of course, we did go to Hawaii that one time.
Oh, you
Yeah.
said that was a post office?
That was a post office convention, yeah.
Okay.
Then he didn't tell me he booked it for 3 weeks. I said, what are you, by the end of 2 weeks, I'm ready to be home, because Steve is home in Silver Creek alone. And I'm thinking he's getting into all kinds of mischief. He doesn't have anybody to report to. And Vic didn't know how many times I was sitting out in the kitchen waiting for Steve to come through in the dark of the night. Okay, Steve, where are you going at this time of night? And he, oh, what are you doing out here, Mom? I'm waiting for you to come through here, or sneaky through here. Vic had, I mean, that 3rd week was just plain misery to me.
You were ready to be home.
I'm a mom to be home.
Yeah.
I didn't need Hawaii for another whole week.
Yeah.
He was pretty sorry that he never ever apologized, but he, well, I can't do anything about it now, he'd say. That's all he ever said.
How old was Steve at the time?
Steve? Probably in high school yet. Yeah, I'm sure he was.
I don't think he got into a lick of trouble.
Huh?
Went home and prayed the rosary every night would be my guess.
I'd be lucky if he prayed his night prayers even.
I think probably so, yeah.
First thing I see on our yard is a tub and some beer cans.
When you got home from Hawaii?
Yeah. And I think Vic, of course, Vic being a guy, probably did some of the same stuff to his folks. Snuck whatever he could sneak. He knew what I was worried about. Especially on my vanity, not my vanity, but my chest of drawers in our bedroom. There's an empty beer can sitting in my bedroom. I don't have any idea if he knew, if he probably thought he had cleaned the place up. Or else he thought I might as well admit it. One or the other, I have no idea.
What type of trouble did he get in for that?
Nothing.
No?
Nope, he didn't. I don't think I don't recall him saying, okay, you can't do this or this or this or this for the next 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think he got into any trouble, and he just knew I was plenty mad. There's a difference between moms and dads, especially if dad was a beer drinker too.
Yeah. Did you have, so growing up, you said that your neighbors also had 14 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have a little friend did you have a childhood friend?
Well, Ethel was my classmate in grade school, so we spent a lot of weekends either in her backyard playhouse or my backyard playhouse, which was just a plot of ground with some string around the trees and tin cans and old spoons for your dishes and a big imagination. Yeah, we always had a back in the trees in the shade, among the shade trees. That's where your playhouse was. And your playhouse was string around a couple of trees and use your imagination.
And you had a great time. You did 4-H with all the kids, right?
Yeah,
Just the girls though, right? The boys weren't.
the boys
didn't get
never
to do
were in 4-H, no.
Okay.
I guess I didn't even think that boys could, because mostly we were sewing and cooking and baking and whatever.
And you would do the music contest?
Oh yes, we took the purple ribbon every year,
Really?
and it was just my kids singing at first. They could do a pretty good job with harmony.
Yes.
I don't know how, because I sure couldn't teach them how to do that, because even with some of the kids, the Pfeiffer kids who were kind of in our, they said, how do your kids sing like that? How do they get the harmony there? I said, I don't know how to tell you they do it. I said, they just do it. I said, I guess what I should say is they sing whatever they hear in their own ear.
And it sounds beautiful.
Because I didn't know what they did. Well, every night when we do dishes, to make doing dishes tolerable, somebody runs the piano. You hit this note, I'll hit this note, you hit this note, and then we'll sing, you know. That's how they did it.
Wow.
We had no teachers to tell us, "Oh, you're doing that wrong. You're doing that wrong."
It just sounded good.
And I remember the first time we sang, the train was going through, and the train was they about drowned us out.
Oh, at 4-H contest, you mean?
Yeah,
Oh.
because it was right out at the fairgrounds, and the train tracks were pretty close to the fairgrounds, and it was a hoot hoot down the line, and there was just like no music at all. Of course, they didn't even always have a musical accompaniment. Sometimes they just sang a cappella. And
they still got the purple ribbon,
yep,
despite the train.
one gal was so mad at us. Well, one year we had, as we got more kids into the group, we had George Shecker was the leader of the men's choir in Humphrey. He kind of came to listen to us one day to tell us if we were hitting pretty good notes or not. One other leader from Humphrey, Dinah, she kind of tattled to the judges. The judge said, "I don't care what they do to get it, prove themselves." He said, "It makes me no difference." She hated that her tattling didn't
result.
Yeah.
Get you guys in trouble.
Yeah, she wanted to report us that we were taking advantage of some methods that shouldn't be allowed. He said, "I don't care what they do to improve themselves," he said. "Fine with me," he said.
Well, yeah.
I don't even know. I guess she thought we knew the judge. I didn't know the guy from Adam. Well, maybe if Adam would have been sitting there, I don't know.
Did Grandpa?
Would you go to the hospital and be there for a week? How long would you be at the hospital? Quite a while, right?
Well, actually, if we went to we didn't go to a hospital. We went to just a home that was considered a maternity
Oh, really?
place. It wasn't really the hospital even. There was a maternity home in Humphrey. In Humphrey, that this older lady who wasn't even a nurse would take care of the babies, and she was pretty elderly. I don't know how she ever did it when I think of it now. And she had maybe 4 beds, and yeah, the first one, I had Linda there and Barb, I think. And then, in fact, usually they didn't like to take the first baby into the nursing home, but it was in December, and I didn't know if we'd even they didn't clear the highways speedy fast.
Yeah.
So I took a chance and went into the nursing home. And then after that, had them all in the nursing home until Chris was born. And then they closed the nursing homes, and you had to go to a hospital.
So the doctor would come in, or this older lady delivered you?
No, the doctor would come in because he was right there in Humphrey too.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she didn't deliver you, baby.
But then she did all of your aftercare.
Yeah.
She cared for you.
Mhm.
And she cared for the baby.
Cooked your breakfast and dinner and supper too. She hardly ever had a helper. One of them had her daughter-in-law kind of helping after Mrs. I can't even remember her name, Lohaus. After she quit, when she really got elderly, then another older lady took over, but her daughter-in-law worked with her to clean and cook and everything else. No, you just didn't get, I don't know, I still felt secure and safe. I guess I didn't know any different. Then I went to the hospital with, I think it was Chris, and she was born at the end of March. And that can be a hell of a time to have a baby. But we did get there to the hospital between blizzards. And some of them didn't get home from the hospital right away when they should have gone home because they couldn't get home because the roads were blocked. And by the time I had to go home with Chris, the storm had been over and they got the old roads open. But yeah, there was a lot of things to worry about. I just prayed,
Yeah.
Lord, I can't handle this, you can.
Yeah. So then were the older kids, who
Who was at home with my kids
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's questionable too. I remember somewhere along the way, a little gal came in from the neighborhood and then stayed with us the week or so after. And Jeanette Worth, she was Jeanette Gilsdorf at the time. She almost wasn't going to come, and then she said, I think I will come and help you out, you know. I think her mom was maybe worried about leaving a young gal staying with family with a dad there, no
Sure.
mom.
Sure. Yeah.
You might worry about that too,
Sure.
but somehow it all worked out. And I remember when Jeanette and I were visiting one time. She was at our place. I guess I must have been home from the hospital. Or I don't remember which one of the kids it was. Maybe it was, I don't remember. Anyhow, I said to her, Jeanette, you want to guess what my confirmation name was? She said, oh, I have no idea what your confirmation name would be. I said, it's Jeanette because I liked your name. And she said, really? Guess what mine is? I said, why would I know yours? I have no idea. It's Anastasia because I liked your name.
No.
I never could forget that. I thought, how unusual. She liked my name, I liked her name. So we took it for confirmation names.
That is unusual.
Uh-huh.
Now, is that the reason you named Jeanette?
Well, I was thinking Jeanette or Janet, or I thought of another J name. I don't remember why I wanted it. I don't know if there was no reason for a J name. There was another name that was kind of popular about that time. Then I thought, no, I really like Jeanette. I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah.
I didn't give Vic a chance. He'd have probably called her by one of his old girlfriend's names.
Did he ever have a say in what you named the kids, or did he
Yeah,
always have the final say?
he named Mark and George.
Okay.
Then after that, I guess he gave up.
But Linda and Barb and Ellen, you kind of had those names.
I called Ellen Mary, and my sister Lorette always thought she should have something to say too, I guess. She said, why'd you call her Ellen Mary? Why don't you call her Mary Ellen like all the other people? I said, because I don't want to do it like everybody else. I like the name Ellen. And I wasn't going to give her a chance to put her 2 cents within either. I have to live with this.
That's right.
If you wanted to name them together, you could have had more kids than 2.
Yeah.
At least I always figured if you could have 1 or 2, you could have more than you wanted. If you were well, guess what? Her husband slept they lived on a little old farm. He slept in the kitchen on a cot, and she slept with her little girl back in the bedroom.
What?
Yeah, what?
Always? That's interesting.
Must have been for them too. Yeah, I never asked her why, but
I was gonna say, did you ever ask why, or just kind of?
no, I just thought, well, I tried to figure it out in my own mind and never could really get well, I thought it was strange.
Yeah.
Because my mom and dad always slept in the bedroom downstairs. The kids all slept upstairs in the rooms upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought moms and dads always slept together. But she showed me different.
Well, yeah, that is different.
She never ever, you know what? I'm the only one with grandkids of my sisters. They don't. Angela never married, so she had no grandchildren of her own. She just had stepchildren. Well, you can't count them as your own then. Lorette never had any Nancy died by the time she was 40 with cancer. Nikki never did marry, so she had no grandchildren. My sister Vi had no children at all. She lost one baby and she never had any more. And so she had no grandchildren. I thought, am I the only one? Well, God, why did you send them all to me?
You made up for all of them.
I guess his answer was, well, I had to get them born. You were the only one ready, available. Anyhow, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I thought of that one day. I thought, that's strange. I have 3 sisters. Not one of them has a grandchild.
And you have so many.
I have
Oodles.
I have the whole litany. And
yes, you do. What do you have a specific prayer that you always said for your children, or do you have?
well, I always slip some in there for the kids and the grandkids, and that's one section of my night prayers, especially. I have this Saint Pio booklet that I keep here. It's got a lot of nice prayers in for every reason under the sun. And when Sarah and Paul had their last little guy, his name is Peter Isaac O'Brien. This prayer book is from Saint Pio, P-I-O, Peter Isaac O'Brien.
Wow.
I said, Sarah, were you aware of that? Oh yeah, we were aware of that. She said, we did that on purpose. I said, well, I caught on to it pretty fast.
Yes, you did.
This came in the mail one day, this little prayer book, and I just liked it.
Yeah,
It's got all kinds of prayers in it.
that's neat. Okay, how about what advice would you give your great-grandchildren or grandchildren?
Hang on to your faith.
Yeah.
Don't just think you can get by with anything. I think that's probably what kept a lot of the older people going, was their faith. And I think it's probably more often when you think you pray when you don't realize it's a prayer. Like if you scream as loud as you can once in a while, I've often felt like, I wonder if anybody can hear me if I go behind the trees and holler to get the stress off.
So I'm sure you had hardly any downtime, like when you had young kids, or you really had no time to yourself. But
No.
after the kids went to bed,
Well, I'd always read to them before they went to bed, because they loved story time. That's when story time was, for right before they went to bed. I'd always get them this little, it was like a Reader's Digest, but it was a children's digest. It'd have short stories and all, gave us a variety of reading rather than the old books we always had. And they were ready, knew it was bedtime, but they were ready for it. Like Barbara wrote on her memory thing in this book of letters that the kids sent that one time, that they'd all sit around us on the bed with their feet under my warm parts, tucking them under my biscuits, and we'd have story time every night before they'd go to bed, and then they were willing to crawl in under the covers. And I remember we had some electric blankets too, and one time we went someplace, maybe it was to a movie, maybe once in a while we'd allow ourselves a movie, Well, they weren't crazy expensive like they are now. And I turned the electric blankets on before we left so that the beds would be real warm. When they got home, we could crawl right in snug bed. Here their beds were like ice. It was just something burned out or fizzled out. There was no heat at all. Had to get those kids warm before they could crawl in bed then. That was not fun.
No.
Because we didn't have an automatic. I think our stove downstairs, we had an oil burner. We were not modern at all. Anyhow, I don't know how we finally got them all warmed up. We put socks on them and everything. And
Slip them all in.
they probably were so frozen in the brain. They weren't sure how warm they were either.
I don't even know how most nights were there nights when you were reading stories and just
Oh yeah.
nodding off? I don't know how, you had to have been exhausted at the end of the day to
Yeah.
even read those stories.
Yeah. Oh, you get used to being tired. I don't think I ever took a nap very often unless, of course, the kids I'd have them comb my hair or fix my hair, boy, I'll tell them what their fixing felt good, but it looked bad.
But it didn't matter.
No, it felt so good. And they'd comb my hair and they'd brush my hair and they'd play beauty shop and I was just like, that feels so good. Oh, I like it yet if somebody brushes my hair. It feels good.
Yeah. So
You don't have to worry about that, do
I
you?
try to keep it as minimalistic as possible. I don't have to pay anybody to shave my head. I don't have to do my hair.
Or you cut your own hair,
Absolutely.
like Hattie does?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's where she got it from. If Uncle Scotty can do it.
we don't want to go quite that drastic.
I don't remember if I had any problems with kids cutting hair much ever. I can't remember anybody chopping into their. I probably felt like chopping into my own a lot of times.
Now, would you cut everybody's hair? You cut
Yeah.
all the kids' hair? Yeah.
Yeah. If Vic took care of the boys, you know what he did? He just went across them with a razor. Brrr.
Straight razor right on the head.
Yep.
Done.
Wow. 'Cause you didn't have.
George had
Hair
nice
clippers.
George had nice curly hair. And I came home from church one Sunday. What happened to George? Well, Vic said he said I knew he needed a haircut. And he said I went right down the middle and then it was too late. Took a strip right out of the middle. I cried because George had curls. I didn't want
Did
to.
they ever come back?
He never was very curly after that at all.
I would have cried too.
No, you never really see curls on his hair now, but now some of the little girls have curly hair.
Olive.
What's her name?
Olive.
Is that Lynn's
Yeah.
little gal? Olive, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised how curly her hair was.
Yeah.
I don't know if any other ones do, but
Are there any other girl? Oh yeah, Camille.
I don't know about Camille. I haven't seen her for quite a while.
I don't know that she has curls. She doesn't have curls like Olive.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, Olive's how her hair got so long.
now, where did Dan's red hair come from? Where's the red hair in the family?
Well, Vic's his grandmother had red hair,
Oh, okay.
and Barb, kind of came from the rustler side of the people too. My mom's people had
Okay.
red hair. Aunt Hattie had red hair.
Okay.
I never had it, but none of Dan had the red hair, but none in my brothers and sisters had red hair. It must have skipped a whole generation.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I suppose you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does that.
It definitely.
Yeah,
can.
Dan always had the reddish complexion too, and Barb's hair was very much redder than it is now,
Yeah, she has that reddish
more auburn.
Yeah.
What?
Ask you, do you remember? Did you have to pay for your kids to go to Catholic school?
Oh yeah,
And do you have any idea?
Well, not in Cornley, we didn't. I think,
Cornley, you did not.
no, they kind of, I don't know how they handled it.
Maybe
I guess
the
it just,
just took it out of your tithing or something.
yeah, it must be, because I don't remember that we paid, say, even $5 tuition. You were expected to give what you could give without, I don't know, but in Humphrey we did have to.
You did.
As soon as we went over there, yeah, it was so much per grade. But I don't remember what it was, but it was nothing like it is now even.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything that people don't know about you? That,
They'll tell you.
or,
That's not the way I remember it.
or anything that you want to say? Anything that you think about growing up? Any games you played, or?
You know, and growing up, I didn't think about it because it was the normal thing back then. We had nuns for teachers in grade school. We went to Cornley. From Cornley, you went to Humphrey. And you still had nuns. I never had lay teachers.
Oh wow! Even in Humphrey.
They were all nuns all the time. Some of them you liked, some of them were like growlies. We had a homeroom teacher. She was, can't remember her name, but she was from Humphrey, I think, originally, years back, you know. She was kind of stern, but still, kids were naughty back then too. They needed stern teachers, I guess. Kids will be kids. Darn it. They don't even change from one generation to the next, do they?
No, they don't. Do you remember going anywhere?
Or you wonder if they'll have to go back to day one. You know, what would happen if the electricity went out over a vast area? People would be totally lost, wouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
People be in worse shape than they ever were. I remember getting up in the mornings and the furnace had probably burned down pretty much through the night. The house wouldn't be ice cold like when I was a kid, but if you were an age, say you were at least 8th grade, and you could go out in the kitchen, put some wood in the stove and put some cobs in there and put some kerosene in there and light a match to it and get the stove going so that you could have water hot to make coffee. When Mom woke up, you know, at least we would do that for Mom. We'd go down and get the stoves going. But we were tougher, I think, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
We had to be.
Well, and I'd be terrible storms.
Oh, yeah. Well, there were lots of them. But we did have that deep cave. But I don't remember us going down there very often. I think we just trusted that we weren't going to be blown away. Although, boy, there have been some tornado activity in that area of a home that was a brand new home and blasted off of a hillside. It was in the past 5 years down in, I think it was kind of northwest of us.
Oh, wow.
It hit the one place and that's all it took.
It's so weird.
And they were just getting home from somewhere and they saw the storm, they saw the tail coming, you know. And they got to the basement and it took all his strength that he could to ply against the weight of the door to keep it from blowing open, but it took the house off of the top of them. Brand new home.
Were they all okay?
Yeah, the family, they just got home, ran as hard as they could to their basement, and got in, and he's trying to hold the door shut and saved all the family, but couldn't save the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness the family
And
was...
then another neighbor said, and I was standing out there taking a picture of it because it didn't look like it was going to come my way, but she said that was stupid too. She could have easily changed its course.
And they can come so fast.
Yeah, they come so fast, and that old tail is sweeping back and forth, wiping everything out of its way.
Yeah, that's scary.
I have never seen a tornado come down.
You have never seen a tornado come down?
Not that I can ever remember.
I haven't either. I just am surprised. I thought maybe...
I have never seen one come down.
Oh, wow.
not except on TV.
Right.
But I've seen been through some wicked storms. Now, maybe there was some tail activity we just didn't see.
Yeah. You were too busy getting kids to where they
Yeah.
needed to be
Or
safe.
even when I was a kid myself, I was like, if we can make it to the cave, we're okay. Or if we can make it, but what if it collapses we had like a little cave or a little building over the top. If that would have collapsed and it could have, that was a brick, if that would have broken to pieces and it could have buried us for a while.
Yeah. Man, you guys there's a lot of stuff that could have happened.
We weren't supposed to have to go then yet, I guess.
No, other plans. Well, you had look at all these kids you had to
Yeah.
populate the earth with.
Yeah, no.
And then you wrote in here that your dad had a mustache. Is that right?
Yeah, till Mom couldn't stand it anymore. Well, as he got older, he probably, he'd have to have it trimmed every once in a while so it wouldn't hang over his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Because it keeps growing too. And I don't know, I think it seemed like that mustache was always more stiff.
Oh,
The hair wasn't soft.
of course, yeah.
Seemed more stiff.
Yeah.
Of course, I only ever remembered him with a mustache. I never knew him any other way from tiny on.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came home one day and here, Mom had shaved it off of him. She said, "I'm getting tired of all those slobbers over your mouth, hanging in your coffee, dripping here, dripping there." I never thought of that being such a mess. I don't blame you, Mom. But he looked like a different person without that mustache on.
And he did, because that's all you'd known.
Yeah, I always knew him with a mustache. I didn't know he had a face behind there, I guess.
What, looking back at your life, what are some of the things you're most grateful for?
Well, I think I'm glad I didn't have to grow up in the city. I don't think I could have handled, well, maybe if you're born into it, you don't know any other way. But I just don't think I could have handled Chicago or New York. Or, of course, maybe, I don't know, like for them, if they're in a certain area and they stay in their own area, if it doesn't seem so big then, I don't know if that's the way it would
You would
be.
have been a different person. You know?
I'm sure I would have been a different person. You learn different things. You learn to do different things. I wouldn't have been so farmerish.
Probably not as resourceful. You're one of the most resourceful people I know. I mean, you can make something out of nothing, like your surprise cookies, I call them.
What were those?
Your cookies, you would make a batch of cookies, and then whatever you had left over, you just throw in there. A little bit of potato chip crumbs, just throw those in there. At the end of a cereal box, throw those in there. Always the best cookies I've ever had. It was like, Grandma, what is in these? They're so good. A little bit of extra this, a little extra
Crumbs
this.
out of the cookie jar.
Crumbs out of the cookie jar, crumbs out of the cereal box, potato chips. They're amazing.
I think I've forgotten a lot of those things that I used to do automatically.
You're very resourceful. So yeah, that's good. I never thought about being grateful for not growing up in the city, but very true. Anything else that you're most
Well, I think
grateful for?
there's more temptations available to for kids to get into trouble, and who wants trouble? You guys, enough of it automatically.
Yeah.
Especially when you hear nowadays, like they seem to shoot each other so easily, or just killing is no big deal. I just don't think I could handle that, or losing a friend that way. But then I always think, well, that's a big city. They seem to have less morals as far as killing being wrong. No, killing is defending myself. I don't know. That would be New York or Chicago. Although I said to Nicole when I called her for her birthday, I guess, and just talked to her. And I said, how are you liking it in Chicago? Oh, I love it. She said, I love it. Yeah, and I said, doesn't it scare you to be, oh, I just know this area so well, and it's just a good area to live in. And so, of course, she's lived in Omaha all her life. And then when she went to college, she went to St. Louis. That's another big city, and she could drive back and forth from there to Omaha for her transportation. Well, then you become very comfortable, I think, with life, where I could have probably never done all that.
Yeah.
At least I tell myself I wouldn't have been able
You
to.
would've been able to.
I'm satisfied with country life.
Yeah.
Even my magazines are country living.
In what ways have your children made you proud?
Make you what?
In what ways have your children made you proud? Or
Well,
what are you most proud of?
or not, well, being successful. I'm grateful that all my kids have talents. Linda does cards, Ellen does cards, Barb does quilts. She gave a nice demonstration here one day.
Oh, neat.
She brought everything she was working on, and they were very impressed. And she could speak about it. She could just get up there and speak about her quilts, what she was creating, who for, or whatever. And her work is meticulous, beautiful.
It is beautiful.
You just can't help but feeling good that your kids are successful in an art. Well, it is an art, and enjoying doing it too. And well, Trish does this door art, and one of the girls said, "Oh, I just love that star on your door. It's beautiful." I said, "That's just about my favorite one." I said, "She got about 40 different designs that she creates for craft. Tell her we have a craft show here, so on such a date this fall. I'll have to check on that again." She said, "We'd love to have her at our craft show here." So all they've seen is what I hang out there. Well, I hung the big cross out already through the Easter season. I've put out the big purple flower. I think I've got 6 of them. A mitten at Christmas time, and Trish loves the glitz. She said, "I have to put glitz on mine. I like all this sparkle," and so she does beautiful work.
She does do beautiful work.
And I thought, well, Chris doesn't do artwork, but she's always remaking something for somebody. She does hundreds of cupcakes, and they're a work of art too. I said to her, "Boy, you can't say that isn't a work of art to create something that everybody thinks is the best thing they've ever eaten." I think she made 700 of them for graduation parties.
I don't know how she has time.
She's just about ready to collapse, I
I
think.
think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
and they're so pretty too. And she displays them on glass sheets, and they look pretty special at weddings or whatever.
How's your
Make me proud. Not prideful, just happy.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. If I can do that after I'm dead, that'd be something. What am I feeling here?
That's your microphone.
Oh,
Probably screwing up with the videotape a little bit.
I could feel this little soft puffy thing. I thought, what the heck is that?
You probably don't need to touch it.
I thought it was a rotten grape.
You forgot what you had for lunch yesterday. You were saving it for later.
No, having Dan be a deacon is a good feeling too. He went off when he was a freshman, which I think is too young to know what you really want to do with your life. You wouldn't know who you'd want to marry when you're a freshman in class high school either. But I think that he kept it in the back of his mind to be a deacon is still a good thing. We had a young man who was just ordained recently. He was from the West Point area, I think, and his name was Leffers, his family name. And he spent a summer with us in Humphrey. And one night he said, I always wanted to fly a plane, and I did. He said, I did fly a plane, but that still wasn't what I wanted to do with my life, be an aviator. He's a wonderful musician, and he liked that old organ in Humphrey. And he gave us a concert one night. It rocked the church, I'll tell you.
Really?
Even his folks from West Point and a lot of the people from the parish up there came to Humphrey that night to hear his concert that he was going to give us. And your mom and dad happened to pop in that night too. And Mark said, well, if I'd have known you were going to have cookies afterwards, I'd have come over too, but he didn't. And Ellen said, my gosh, she said, he's good. But like he said, I always wanted to be an aviator, and I got to be one. And he said, then people told me that I was material to be a priest. He said, well, I wasn't too sure about that one. He said, I could give it a try. Could work towards that. And I think he's going to be a great priest.
Yeah.
Or whoever gets him. Yeah. He's even quite handsome too. So I hope somebody doesn't ruin it for him. I might have his picture here. Wonder if it's in this. Yeah. There's 3 ordinations this year, but he's the one in the middle.
Oh yeah. You know, he looks like a nice kid.
I don't have any idea how old he is.
Is there any important lesson that your parents taught you, or that you witnessed from them that kind of you took throughout your own life? That you.
I think they kind of impressed it was the need to stay true to your faith. I think that was very important, and it wasn't that we got into a lot of trouble or anything, but I think it was probably drilled into them, and that's the one they drilled into us. I don't know if I did any drilling or not. But as yet, it seems like all the kids are still in the church. There's none of them. Like Don and Phil, they had Patrick wasn't really very faithful for a while. I think he finally did get married instead of just living with the gal. I always thought it was kind of funny that he just was kind of a rogue for a while. But I think that was, and I'm glad that none of my kids are wishy-washy in their faith, or at least I don't think they are. From what I see, I think they're pretty faithful to their parishes, and if they need to pray, they need to know they got to know the guy they're praying to, or asking for help. And I think they kind of have had some situations where they had to learn that trust. Not everything is this smooth pavement all the way.
What are things that you value most in your life?
Well, my family is number one, I think. And just saying thank you to God every day for, that you never really ran out where you were desperate for need. There's always been something to go on. A job. Talking about jobs, that made me think of, no matter where we went, there was always a job waiting for me. It didn't pay any money, but there was a job there. Yeah. Like when we were here in Humphrey, before we went to Silver Creek, well, I worked at the rectory part-time, and that just came about because, why was it? Well, Thelma Vike was the head secretary, and the first thing that happened was Phyllis was always cleaning the rectory, and she was going to take the job as the bookkeeper over at the school lunch program. So she said, I can't do both. So she said, and you got time to go in once a week to clean the rectory? Well, I can try it. I don't know if I can do as good a job as you. You'll do all right, she said. So I took the job of cleaning the rectory. And I was there for a couple of months, and once a week I'd go in and clean all the rooms upstairs. And then what happened? Oh, Thelma Vike in the head office. I had to go through the head office to get upstairs. And she said, Ann, I'm going to need a helper. And I know you used to work in offices before you were married. So she said, do you think you could lend me a hand here in the office once in a while? Even though, and still keep your cleaning job upstairs? Well, I could try, I said. So I started working in the office, and pretty soon it became more, well, I need help. I need somebody to do the bulletin. I need help here. I need more help. Think you could do it? I can try. Then, of course, all of a sudden we're moving to Silver Creek. And I said, well, I think I'll just kind of have to quit trying to help you, I said. And so then we get to Silver Creek. Well, the gal that does the bulletin there is going to get married, and she's going to move away from Silver Creek. Well, then what's Father going to do without somebody doing the bulletin? And their copying machine was a dilapidated, old, beat-up thing from about 500 years ago, I guess. But she showed me how to operate this thing and get the ink into it and everything. It was a mess, but so I tried to do the bulletin there. And then pretty soon, one lady who was on the committee or something, she said, I think we need to get a new machine here so that these people can do their work properly. So they got me a new copy machine. And so I did the bulletin all the while we lived in Silver Creek, which was about 6 years. And then I got another job in Silver Creek, which people couldn't understand. How come this new person in town is getting the jobs and we've got plenty of people here? Well, that's because somebody said to the gal who was wanting a helping hand, I need a helper. And she said, and I can tell you that she's good if you take her, because she's been doing the office work, she's been doing this, she's been doing that. I never had to ever look for a job, no matter where I went. I worked for Designer Premix then. Well, then when we finally left there, I was going back to Humphrey. And what happened then? We weren't even moved into our house yet. One of the teachers came across from school. Could you help me on Wednesdays? Well, I think I could help you on Wednesdays. And after that, the first year there, every Wednesday I'd go over and help. Then they needed 2 subs for teachers' aides. And one of the gals said, aren't you going to apply for that? You've been working at school, why don't you apply for that? I don't know if I want to do that. Well, I'm going to do it, she said. I've already gotten hired. Put your name in. She said, put your name in. So I did, got the job. I didn't apply for a job here.
Well, you never know what they'll bring you.
Anyhow, yeah, so then I kept until Vic's. When did I quit there? I don't know how long. Can't even remember how many years I put in there. But I did enjoy that last one as a teacher's aide. I liked working with the kids. They were all these little, I had a real low down table. I sat on a little bitty chair. This one little kid would come in every morning. Got a joke for you, got a joke for you. He'd ask me one of these old-fashioned riddles that I knew umpteen years ago. I'd give him the answer. Oh, darn, you knew the answer. I said, well, you're asking me these things that your grandpa's probably trying to pull on you. I said, I know all those answers. It was fun. And then I knew the parents, and I knew who, now I don't know, I almost don't know anybody in Humphrey except the ladies I played cards with. Everything has changed so much. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
So I guess I had an interesting life. About as interesting as you can have out here in this area.
Well, it was never lacking for something to do.
No, we'll just wait till she comes available. We'll give her a job.
Yeah, I would say your best.
One time George got caught smoking us. And I don't know if he was in the barn or where he was. I said, you know, that was such a bad thing to do in the barn where there was straw and everything. Didn't you have the brains in your head to know you could have started the whole place on fire? I said, if you want to smoke, you smoke right here at this kitchen table. And I made him light up a cigar. And
you made him light up a cigar?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to smoke right here in front of all of us. I think he never ever tried it again. He never ever smoked it full time as far as I know. I think he remembered getting kind of sick from just guilt. I don't know. There's probably every kid tries it, but people don't smoke like they used to smoke always.
Not as much as they used to.
No, my dad always smoked. He liked a occasional cigar, but a pipe. He always smoked a pipe. I don't think you ever see anybody. You don't see it on programs or anything on TV. That used to be the thing. Edward Murrow was sitting up there smoking his cigarette. Woo.
But you're not going to tell us?
I have to think about it. I regret having to go to confessions sometime.
Yeah.
Or feeling like, I wonder if I got everything. Lord, you got to help me. I always thought that was one of the difficult things to do, was to go to confession. I wasn't ever sure what was supposed to be said. I wished I could never have done anything naughty, like snuck some candy out of the jar or something.
If that's your biggest regret, I'd say you're okay.
Well, as a kid, I was a thief. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. That's okay.
No, even yet, and it's so nice when they do come for confessions here, which I had no idea how I was going to. I thought, how are you going to go to confession? And even though you're not laid wide open to breaking the commandments, I was like, how do you go to confession here when you haven't got a car to drive somewhere? You can't even drive it anymore. They come to your room.
Oh,
They'll let you know when the day that there's going to be confession, and the priest comes into your room and you can just talk directly to him.
wow, that's neat.
That is nice, yeah.
That's really nice. I'm glad that they have that for you still.
And we usually have at least one mass a week. If it may not be on Sunday, but it will be, during the week. Except this past week, I don't think we had one mass this week, but we'll probably have one then next week. Of course, Columbus has 3 parishes, so one parish will take it for a while, I guess, and then now St. Anthony's parish is helping us out with EMEs and everything. We have a communion service every Sunday, just a communion service, but if there's a mass, sometimes Father Joe from St. Isidore's will come once in a while with communion on a First Friday. He sees to it that we have First Fridays.
Oh,
So,
that's nice.
uh-huh.
That's very nice. And will he just, at the end of your life, how would you like your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren to remember you?
With love.
Oh.
Forget the, you can't do that in my house,
Yeah.
Forget the admonishing, crabby attitude once in a while.
Oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. All right. Anything else you want to say?
So many times people will say, how can you send birthday cards to all these kids? I said, well, I could as long as I could write, but now I'm getting so I can't write very good anymore. But I still want to, I said, but I get phone privileges here, which is help. I can make long distance phone calls and not be charged extra than the 35, I think they charge 35 a month phone. And I can call Texas, I can call Washington, D.C., whatever. I don't know if they'd let me talk to the president or not.
Well, if he knew who he was calling.
Yeah, so I just have to dial, if it's a 9 and a 1 to get out of the building, and then I can dial whoever.
It's nice.
Of course,
It's
no
fun
one.
getting a phone call.
And it comes right through. Of course, if I'm doing something wrong, like one day I was just going to call Chris, and I dialed a 9 and a 1, and
Hopefully not another one.
no, no. I just a 9 and a 1 to get out of here, and then I was told you will not reach your call because you don't need I don't have to do the one. She's on a Columbus circuit, I guess, or something to that effect. I think she told me, but I forgot, you know. Well, now I know. Now to George, I have to do the 9 and 1, or
Because
that's considered beyond this.
comforting or whatever.
Yeah, but I can call anywhere in the United States and not be charged extra. So that helps.
It's fun to get a phone call from you. It's kind
Good.
It was always fun to get a card from you too. Always fun to get a card in the mail. Now it's really fun to get a phone call. We never, because it was so expensive, we wouldn't talk on the phone as much, and now.
Oh yeah. Otherwise, I had to pay for every
Yeah.
every minute, and a phone call could get quite expensive, especially over a whole hour.
Yeah. So it's fun to get a phone call now. I think that's neat. Good that you're.
I think when I realized that my handwriting was, or my hand printing is even getting so bad that it's funny, I start out with a good, and then it gets tinier and tinier and tinier. It's like, how come this hand don't want to work anymore? I'm ready for retirement, it yelled at me one day.
That's right. It's a good thing your mouth still works, because then phone calls are easy.
Yeah, but notice my voice is starting to get froggy too.
There's some water there if you want some for you.
Oh, I didn't even think, will that grease me up a bit?
It'll get you going.
Well,
Round 2.
We've made you talk a long time today.
I've been enjoying the visiting with you though.
It's been a nice day.
I love your company, Grandma.
Thank you. Who's my company? You're my company.